So, we were just talking about how automatic thoughts can shape how we feel and act, a lot of times without us even realizing it. Now, I want to go over how we can notice these thoughts.
Right. So, how do I do that? How do I start noticing?
The first step in working with automatic thoughts is to pause. When you notice a surge of emotion, like a drop in your stomach or sudden anxiety, use that as your cue to stop and ask, what just went through my mind?
Okay, so what happens after I pause?
Well, automatic thoughts often follow familiar patterns like taking the same route on a daily commute. A thinking trap, such as catastrophizing, is like always taking the same exit without realizing it. Pausing gives you a chance to slow down, notice the turn, and consider other possible routes. Alternative thoughts that may also fit the situation. An automatic thought is just one possible interpretation. You can test it by looking for evidence for and against it. If you catch yourself imagining the worst, remind yourself that it's only one possibility, not a guaranteed outcome. From there, you can create a more balanced thought that better reflects the present situation. Research shows that spotting thinking traps ahead of time makes emotions easier to manage and less intense.
Okay, but what if that main exit feels like the right exit? It's just kind of hard to just ignore it and take a different road.
So, the goal isn't to ignore your usual mental route, but to build a skill called cognitive flexibility. This is not about positive thinking or forcing happy thoughts that don't feel real. Instead, it means seeing the bigger picture more accurately and holding multiple possibilities in mind at once.
I guess so. I never really thought of it like that. It seems really hard to do, though.
That's what practice is for. This is how you begin to actually manage your emotions instead of feeling like your emotions are managing you. By practicing this, by pausing, noticing your first thought, and then deliberately looking for these alternative routes, you start to take back control from your mental autopilot. If you use the exercise in Mind Lamp, thinking more flexibly, you can tackle these automatic thoughts systematically. Would you be open to walking through it together with an example right now?
Okay, sure. I guess I could try. An example came to mind when you were talking, actually.
Great. Let's start with the first question. What was the situation that triggered the automatic thought?
Well, my friend Anna and we went out on Saturday and we had a good time. But now I'm overthinking that something I might have said at the end, it may have come off as inconsiderate. But it feels too minor to bring up with an apology. And so I texted her yesterday morning just saying, hey, but she still hasn't responded. And it's been over a day.
Okay, that's a very relatable situation. So the next question is, what are you telling yourself? What's the automatic thought that pops up?
Well, my immediate thought is she's upset with me, and she must be so upset that now she's ignoring me.
Perfect. That's the thought we'll examine. And what emotion comes with that thought?
Anxiety, definitely. And I guess I feel a bit sad and rejected too.
That makes complete sense. Now let's get curious about this thought. I'm going to ask a few questions to help us look at it from different angles. First, do you know for certain that this thought, she's upset with me, is 100% true?
Well, no, not for certain, but it just feels true.
Okay, what evidence do you have that supports the thought?
Well, she's usually faster to reply, and we were talking about personal stuff, and I might have made a joke about it, which may have been insensitive.
All right, now what about the other side? What evidence do you have against it? Could there be other explanations for why she hasn't replied?
I mean, we often joke about personal stuff, and she has never been upset. And I know she has that huge project deadline this week at work that she was really stressed about, and that her mother was visiting this past weekend. So maybe she's wrapped up catching up on everything.
Those sound like very real possibilities. Let's dig a little deeper. Is your prediction that she's mad driven more by the anxious feeling itself rather than just the facts?
Probably. When I get anxious, my brain always jumps to the worst case scenario and that I've messed something up.
That's a powerful insight. Okay, let's follow the worst case scenario for a moment. What is the absolute worst that could happen here?
Well, that she really is mad and she doesn't want to be friends anymore, and I've ruined a really good friendship.
And if that unlikely worst case actually happens, how could you cope with it?
Well, it would be awful, and I'd be really upset. But I guess I would just have to accept it, and I'd lean on my other friends. I would survive, even though it would hurt a lot.
Exactly. And now, the final step, looking at all of this, the lack of certainty, the strong evidence for other explanations, and your ability to cope, even with the worst outcome. Let's summarize your reflections. What's a brief, alternative, more balanced thought you can walk away with?
Maybe something like, even though I'm anxious because Anna hasn't replied, it's likely she's just overwhelmed and has a work deadline. I can't know what she's thinking, so I'll just wait for her to get back to me instead of assuming I did something wrong.
That is a fantastic alternative thought. Do you feel the difference between that and your first automatic thought?
Yeah, it helps. It feels calmer, more reasonable. Like I actually can breathe. And paradoxically, now that I'm not catastrophizing about our entire friendship ending, I'm more okay with the idea that she may actually be upset and I may have said something insensitive. I feel like I can wait for her to respond or even just check in later and to apologize, even if it's still bothering me. The problem feels manageable now.
That's the goal. That's cognitive flexibility in action. You didn't ignore the possibility of your fear, but you put it in perspective alongside other more likely possibilities. That's the skill you build every time you practice this.